Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. So in this video, I want to talk about Casper, what it's doing, where it's going, and what you should be prepared for. So let's put some drawings on here. So it is my belief that we are currently in the first structure of the greater bull run structure that Casper has. So we have completed thus far the first wave, which was very small. Price has moved up and winded its way down in the second wave, and now this third wave is turning out to be quite large, and the move down is larger than what this fractal may suggest, but that is not necessarily something to be concerned over. And here's why. Let's go back to where I got these fractals from. So this is where I'm pulling those fractals from, and it is the very beginning of the Casper chart. Now, Casper has a repetitive macro structure that has been playing out. Casper has essentially been repeating the same series of patterns that it first printed back at its inception. So before Casper was widely traded, it printed a series of patterns, and those patterns have been repeating throughout today's Casper. So Casper has had a bull run. Yes, Casper has had a bull run in the very beginning of the Casper chart. It has had a decline. It has had a sideways range-bound time. Now I take these larger structures and break them up into smaller parts. So the bull run consists of smaller fractals. The decline, in this case, consists of 2 fractals. The sideways range-bound time consists of 3 fractals. This series of structures takes place once here, and then it repeats once again over here. So that is the bull run, the decline, the sideways range-bound time. It then goes into another bull run, it goes into another decline, and it goes into another sideways range-bound time. Each of these structures are repetitive in nature. So for instance, this structure right here, I call it a topping structure. After the peak, it comes back down and then does kind of a series of waves right here that bring it into the next fractal. And this is the bottoming out fractal. Well, we see that over here. So here's the bull run. It comes back down and it does a series of waves here, and then it comes down into the bottoming out fractal. If you notice, there's a little bounce here. Well, this time it bounced much larger, and that can happen due to the timing, height, and depth being unique every single time a fractal or a structure repeats. So the same idea repeats, for instance, this bounce, but the timing, height, and depth, since they're unique, it can mean it can play out on a small scale or a much larger scale. After that, price moves up and then kind of winds down to a point before moving up again into the next fractal. So we see price moves up here, it kind of winds down to a point before moving up again into the next fractal. This fractal has this interesting feature where it drops, goes sideways, moves back up again, and creates sort of like a bowl. Here, we see the same thing. It drops, goes sideways, creates a bowl, and then it winds its way down. And this one, instead of winding its way down, it goes flat and then drops down. So both end kind of at that low point. After this fractal comes a bounce. We see that here, and then we see that here. After this bounce, the bull run begins. So we have essentially started the bull run on today's chart right here, the first bull run structure, which is this structure right here, or if you will, this structure right here. So there are 3 main parts in this structure. So this one has the first wave, which was very small here, the second wave, which moved up and then pulled back, and then the third wave, which moved up even higher and then pulled back before moving out of this structure. So over here, I think it's kind of an interesting one. Let's zoom into this structure and get a better look at this. So here we are on a 5-minute candle, folks. Yes, this is a 5-minute candle. This took place very, very fast. So here is that bounce that we were just talking about. It would be this bounce. Or if you will, there's this bounce right here before it goes into this structure. And if we go to today's chart, it is this bounce right here. So after this bounce comes this structure. Let's zoom in here and get a closer look. Okay, so we're zoomed in. So here we see that first wave right here. This matches quite well on today's chart as we see that same style of wave right here. Price then moves up into the second wave and then it pulls back. Today's chart, it moves up and then pulls back. This one, of course, took much longer to play out and it has much more definition and detail because it took longer to play out. Then moved up again and came to a peak and then pulled back quite steeply. As we see on today's chart, it moved up, came to a peak, and has pulled back fairly steep. Not as steep as it did here, but nonetheless steeper than this fractal suggests, which is from over here. So notice how they do the same thing, but they're different. So this one has that first wave, the second wave, and the third wave, but the way it's played out is unique. And the reason for that is because the timing, the height, and the depth is unique to every single occurrence of that same idea or that same structure. We have in this one, this area where it kind of just goes flat. It has a little wave right here. So over here, we have a similar structure that plays out. So it comes winding down and it bounces up. So it would roughly look something similar to this, whereas this time it looks something similar to this. So say it did something similar to this right here. If we copy and paste that structure over here, it could look something like this. But the other option is it could do something similar to this. We'll just have to see how it plays out. So now the question is this the bottom? Well, folks, I really don't know if this is the bottom yet. In some ways, I think there's a good argument that it could be, and here's why. The second time this plays out, it doesn't go nearly as deep, but it does go into the second wave zone, just like we see today. It has moved into the lower part of the second wave. So price in this one pulls back so low it actually went into the first wave as well. What we are experiencing is within historical norms. It could even go deeper into this zone like we see over here. So just be prepared for that. Also be prepared for this part of the chart to potentially take its time to play out. So folks, whether it does something similar to this or this is yet to be seen. But so far, we are following the basic idea of the first bull run structure that takes place within the greater Casper bull run. So once this structure completes, price will move up like I talked about in my last Casper video. There may be this little smaller correction here before moving into the next bull run structure. And in this iteration, we see that little correction here before moving into the next bull run structure. Now, this next bull run structure has potential to freak a lot of people out, so just be prepared for that. We're not there yet. We're still in this one. We got to get through this one before we get to the next one. Anyways, folks, I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. You know, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. But if you do find this type of TA interesting and would like to see more of it and you're not a subscriber yet, I recommend hitting that subscribe button. I'll continue to follow this chart as it continues to develop. We are in the bull run structure, folks. It's just taking its time to play out. But it is what it is. We can't force the chart to move faster. We just have to learn how to exercise patience. Good things come to those who wait. There's exciting days ahead, folks. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.